Cognitive psychology teaches that the human mind does not create from absolute nothing. It builds from existing materials like memories, stored images, recognizable patterns, modified knowledge, and reconnected ideas. What we often call new is usually a result of a process known as constructive cognition. We create from what we have seen, heard, experienced, or imagined. A dream, a documentary, a marketplace, or even a conversation can provide the raw material for invention. With that in mind, let us travel to the foot of Mount Sinai, where the Israelites made a golden calf. Did they produce this image from nowhere? Or was it shaped by something they had previously seen, heard, or encountered? Before going further, one important distinction must be made. Human beings operate through cognitive construction. We build from memory and experience. God, however, is not bound by human cognitive processes. Scripture presents him as the one who creates from nothing. Human creativity is constructive. Divine creation is absolute. That difference matters. Now back to Mount Sinai. The Bible tells us that God uniquely spoke with Moses, face to face, unlike other human beings. In the book of Exodus 24 verse 1, God specifically commanded the following: "Come up to the Lord, you and Aaron, Nadab and Abihu, and the 70 elders of Israel." This was not a human initiative. It was a divine invitation. God summoned them up the mountain. However, there was a clear structure of access. The scripture continues: "You are to worship at a distance, but Moses alone is to approach the Lord. The others must not come near." Then, in Exodus 24, verse 9 to 10, we read, "Then Moses and Aaron, Nadab and Abihu, and 70 of the elders of Israel went up the mountain. And they saw the God of Israel, and there was under his feet, as it were, the work of a sapphire, a paved stone, as it were, the body of heaven in its clearness." This moment is significant. The leaders experienced a visible manifestation of God's glory. They saw something described as being under his feet, like a sapphire pavement, clear and radiant. After this encounter, the elders returned to the camp. Moses, however, continued further up to the mountaintop. Now this is the intriguing part of this story. I want you to pay attention. What the people did not anticipate was the length of Moses' stay up the mountain. Moses remained on the mountain for 40 days and 40 nights. Time passed. Patience was wearing out. The congregation likely expected him to return quickly, perhaps the next day or within a few days. But as days, weeks, or even further days or a month passed by, uncertainty began to grow. Anxiety began to rise. They had witnessed power. They had seen thunder, lightning, and divine presence. Now, their leader was gone. It was like he was no longer coming back, and there was silence in the camp. Human psychology responds strongly to uncertainty. When leadership disappears and communication stops, fear fills the gap. The people may have reasoned. Perhaps Moses offended God. Perhaps he was struck down. Perhaps he's no longer coming back. Here is the problem. Fear, when mixed with impatience, produces impulsive decisions. This is when the idea formed in their minds. We are in the wilderness without visible leadership. We need something tangible to represent divine guidance. So, what did they do? They approached Aaron and the leaders who had been on the mountain. Notice this carefully. These leaders were not uninformed men. They had all the information. They had gone up the mountain. They had seen the manifestation described in Exodus 24. Yet under pressure, even leaders can compromise. Aaron accepted the proposal. The people gathered, they gave their gold, they gave their ornaments. The leaders collaborated, and a golden calf was fashioned. Now comes the critical question. Why a golden calf? Why not a goat? Why not a bird? Why not a human figure or a mythical creature somewhere? One possible explanation lies in cognitive construction. People tend to reproduce what is familiar to them. The Israelites were pastoralists. Cattle were central to their economy, culture, and daily life. Strength, fertility, and leadership were often symbolically associated with bulls and cows in the ancient Near East. The image of a golden calf or the image of a calf would have been powerful, recognizable, and culturally meaningful. Beyond this, there is also another layer I would like you to consider. The book of Exodus records that the leaders saw the feet of God. In the book of Ezekiel 1:7, the prophet Ezekiel describes a heavenly vision. This is what is written. Their legs were straight, and the soles of their feet were like the sole of a calf's foot, and they sparkled like burnished bronze. Ezekiel saw the living creatures in God's presence, whose feet resembled those of a calf. This does not directly state that God himself has calf-like feet, nor does Exodus explicitly describe such. In Exodus 24, what is described is the sapphire pavement under his feet, not the sapphire or the shape of the feet themselves. However, when comparing biblical imagery, we see that calf-like symbolism appears in heavenly contexts. Whether the Israelites consciously connected the experience on Mount Sinai with such imagery cannot be definitively proven from Scripture. By psychologically speaking, humans often interpret divine encounters through familiar ones. When people encounter something beyond comprehension, they translate it into familiar forms. So, under pressure, fear and absence of visible leadership, the Israelites may have defaulted to what was culturally strong and visually powerful, a calf made of gold. God represented value and performance. A calf represented strength and leadership. It was a fusion of cultural memory and emotional urgency. This episode reveals something profound about human nature. Number one, we struggle with invisibility. Number two, we prefer tangible symbols. Number three, we act quickly when anxious. And number four, we build from what we know. Golden calf was not merely an idol of metal. It was a psychological response to uncertainty. Was creating a calf directly inspired by what they saw on the mountain? Scripture does not explicitly say so. What it clearly shows is that they had witnessed divine glory, experienced covenant relationship, and yet reverted to a visible substitute when patience was required. The lesson is timeless. In moments of delay, silence, and uncertainty, the human mind will attempt to manufacture security. It will construct something visible to replace what feels absent. Whether or not the feet of God resembled a calf is not directly answered in Scripture. Exodus emphasizes that the sapphire pavement was beneath his feet. Ezekiel describes heavenly creatures with calf-like feet, but the Bible does not state that the Israelites made the calf because they saw God's feet shaped that way. What we can say with confidence is this: humans create from exposure, memory, culture, and pressure. And when faith weakens, imagination can move in the wrong direction. I hope this reflection has brought clarity and a thoughtful perspective to someone. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe, like, and share this video to help more people view and benefit from this information.